Hey guys, it's here, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Sword and Shield's ranked battles for Series 13, and, well, basically we'll be doing a tier list, as you guys can see on screen. But yes, today we're going to be talking about the mythical Pokemon that we will be able to use in Series 13 and kind of ranking them on their usage, based off, of course, their stats, their moves, and pretty much everything they have to offer. Now, of course, if you guys aren't caught up with the news, basically Series 13 is going to be a legitimate fucking Royal Rumble, and it's going to be a lot of chaos, but for the first time ever, importantly, we'll be able to use mythical Pokemon pretty much the first time ever in ranked BGC, or just in general in ranked. We've never actually been able to use mythical Pokemons before, since they've always been banned. And unlike restricted Pokemon, these Pokemons usually never get a format, so it's kind of cool that they kind of did, but at the same time, it's kind of lame that, well, it's kind of overshadowed by pretty much the rest of the other rules, as right now, or not just yet, as of September 1st, you'll be able to use as many legendaries on your team as you want, including mythical Pokemon. So the restriction on how many restrictive legendary Pokemon that you were able to use is now gone. It's now whatever you want, so long as it's not a repeated Pokemon, to my understanding. So yeah, I kind of wish that they would have at least restricted the amount of legendaries that you could use in your team, at least the restricted Pokemon, and the mythical. So say, for example, 2 legendaries and 1 mythical, or 1 legendary and 1 mythical at the same team. But we can't always get what we want, and it's still kind of cool that we're still able to at least use some of these mythical Pokemon, because I do truly think that some of these mythical Pokemon do have some place in the format, or could find a home in the format. But anyways, I'm rambling on for too long. I will be talking about each of the mythicals that are available in Sword and Shield. So as you guys can see, that's not a full list of mythical Pokemon, because we're not ranking all the mythical Pokemon. We're only ranking the ones that are available in Sword and Shield, Pokemon that you're actually able to, you know, transfer over to Sword and Shield, or are obtainable, or at some point were obtainable in Sword and Shield. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just get started. We'll go from the Generation 1 to the latest generation, which only had 1 mythical Pokemon, but we don't talk about that. Anyways, let's start off with Mew. So, at least as for Mew, I could honestly think that Mew could be an A-tier threat, not because of the sheer amount of moves, but that does definitely help. As you guys can see, Mew works in a, you know, variable amount of ways. It could be a bulky Pokemon, it could be an offensive Pokemon. It has a really good spread of, you know, stats, basically, as you could say. It's all 100s across the board, so it makes it for this Pokemon to be pretty much very flexible with whatever it is that you want. If you want an offensive threat, you can definitely do so. If you want a defensive threat and a support, it's definitely doable. This Pokemon learns pretty much any single move, or, well, actually it does learn pretty much all the moves that are available in Sword and Shield through TRs, TMs, you name it, everything is available. It can learn also anything that is from the tutors, so it learns pretty much, yeah, as you can see, it learns everything from the move tutors. So this Pokemon is definitely something that you can definitely use in the either BGC or even in the singles format for this particular series. It's going to be a very interesting Pokemon, and it's going to be a very good flex slot. You can slap this Pokemon pretty much on any of your teams with whatever it is that you're missing out on your team. This is probably going to be the Pokemon that you're going to slap on. It's just really good, and I honestly do believe that Mew deserves to be an A tier. I wouldn't say it's S tier. Potentially, the usage that you get from it could definitely turn into an S tier. But I honestly do think that it's more so a flex mon that you just slap on your team for whatever it is that you're kind of missing. But there are definitely Pokemon out there that could perform much better, so I'm probably just going to put it in the A tier. If I do happen to decide to move it to the S tier, I'll probably do it later on. But for now, let's move on to the next Pokemon, which is Celebi. Now, Celebi is a little bit, I guess, similar to Mew, but the biggest difference is because it has all the stats. It does have a nice ability in Natural Cure, and that's another thing from Mew that I didn't mention. It does have a decent ability, which means that if it does get burned, and you know the target that actually burned it will get burned as well, unless they're a fire type, and so on and so forth. But we're talking about Celebi, my bad. So Natural Cure is good ish. It's decent for singles, I guess you could say, because it's more switch oriented than in the doubles format, though doubles of course does have a lot of switching in and out at times. But typically it's a decent ability. It's not that useful though, but it does share the stats of Mew, and as you guys can see, or will see, Jirachi does also share the same things, but we're talking about Celebi again, so my bad. But anyways, it does, however, not have the wide variety of moves that Mew can learn, so it does kind of limit what Celebi can do. Celebi's not much of a offensive threat, or can't be as much of an offensive threat as maybe Mew can be, even though there is potential to, of course, set up with this Pokemon. I believe it does learn, yeah, it does get nasty plots, so you are able to, of course, set up with this Pokemon, but declaring weakness, or 4 times weakness, to the bug type. And just in general, this Pokemon serves best as a supportive option, in my opinion. I wouldn't necessarily say it's to the same degree as Mew. Mew does definitely have a lot more options, as it does have a wide variety of moves and a decent-ish, or more decent-ish ability. I would definitely say that Celebi could be a B tier threat. Very good supportive Pokemon. Just there's way better Pokemon out there that does what Celebi does, and Mew is definitely one of them. So there's no actual reason for you to run Celebi over Mew, unless you just really like Celebi and you have the shiny Celebi and you just want to flex that. That's, hey, that all the power to you, man. That whatever you want to do, just do it. But I would honestly highly advise, if you're going to use Celebi, you're better off just using Mew. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to Jirachi's. Now, Jirachi is kind of similar to the last 2 Pokemon, as we mentioned. It does have, of course, the all-around 100 base stats. So that's pretty cool. It does have Serene Grace, however, which does make this Pokemon a relatively strong option for singles. Not necessarily too much for doubles, however, it still can potentially be, kind of like a momentum shifter, I guess you could say, because it can definitely come in clutch with those flinches. It does have 2 moves that heavily flinch, so things like Sin Headbutt and Iron Head, which it learns somewhere around here. I'm just not going to look for it, but it does learn Iron Head, which is really, really good. And it does mean that it does have a, what was it, like a 60% chance to flinch? That's kind of insane, if you ask me. It does have other capabilities, such as supportive moves like Helping Hand and other things that can be pretty supportive, like Healing Wish. However, I would personally say that this Pokemon is probably going to be better off being an offensive threat, and is probably going to be used more in the singles format, since having this Pokemon probably with like a Choice Scarf, or maybe under some circumstances where this Pokemon is going to be attacking first than the opponent, it's going to be a very annoying Pokemon to deal with, especially with all the flinches. And in general, this Pokemon actually does hit pretty hard. Like I said, it does have base 100 across board, so it does make this Pokemon pretty hard hitting, at least if you take into account the fact that it's hitting you pretty decently hard, but also has a 60% chance to flinch you. It's kind of, it's kind of insane. I would definitely say that this Pokemon is going to be an 8th tier threat, at least in singles. In BGC, maybe not that much, but I'm still going to take that into account and put it in the A tier, because it's still going to be a really good Pokemon. And again, flinching is phenomenal, and BGC is no stranger to that, so it's probably going to be a decent Pokemon at the very least in the VGC format. So let's move along to Keldeo. Now, I honestly do believe that Keldeo is going to be an S tier threat, and I'm jumping the gun here, but honestly, taking a look at Keldeo's offensive capabilities and speed, the speed is very, very decent. It's in its own tier, and the special attack is pretty high. The attack might not look as high currently, however, the fact that this Pokemon has Justified does mean that this Pokemon can definitely turn into a physical attacker at any point, at least in doubles, which is why I'm putting this Pokemon in the S tier. The reason why is not just because of its offensive capabilities, but the fact that this Pokemon can be ran in either special or physical attack, and this makes this Pokemon extremely versatile, because this will of course keep your opponent kind of guessing as to if this going to be a specially attacking a Keldeo, or physical attacking. Am I going to go for Reflect? Am I going to go for the Light Screen? And the type of move that this Pokemon does have are pretty strong. The fact that this Pokemon has Hydro Pump, Close Combat, it also does get Focus Blast, as you can see here, which is phenomenal. It's going to be great as a Dynamax option. It does also get both Bounce and Air Slash, which means that you will have options to be able to go for the max Airstream when you do Dynamax your Pokemon, and that's just going to make it so that probably Keldeo is going to be the fastest Pokemon on the field. And like I said, this Pokemon does have a very unique speed tier, so that does mean that more than likely it's not going to be speed time with any Pokemon, not to my knowledge at the very least. So I do personally think that yes, Keldeo is going to be a phenomenal S tier threat, and there's pretty much nothing that's gonna make me think that it's not going to be. I definitely do see it coming, and especially because this Pokemon is also available in Sword and Shield, so there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be using Keldeo. Like I said, it's available in Sword and Shield for you to catch it, so it doesn't rely on you having previously gone through one of the events. So yeah, anyways, aside from that, we got Genesect. So Genesect is a kind of unique one. I wouldn't say that it's going to be an S tier threat. Maybe it could be. The fact that this Pokemon does have the same ability as Keldeo. This Pokemon, and not the ability as in the actual ability, but the fact that this Pokemon can be ran both physically and specially offensive, and it does have a decent amount of bulk, another unique-ish speed tier, and this Pokemon does have a lot of options to hit the opponent. It can be mainly run as a specially offensive Pokemon, since it does have a lot of really good options to be able to hit your opponents, like Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Blizzard if you want to use a Ice Max option that hits the hardest at the very least. Like it just pretty much has a lot of options in terms of type advantage. So it could definitely be run physical, special, it doesn't matter. It still hits very hard. This also has a very unique ability, which is called Download. Basically, it adjusts the attack, or well, it gives you a buff depending on what your opponent's weakest stat is, if it's going to be defense or if it's Spadef. If it's Spadef, it gets a special attack buff. If it's defensive, then it's going to get a physical attack buff. And the greatest part about this ability is that it kind of does incite you, or encourage you, I guess, to run Genesect in a mix set, basically, because if you do have a mix set with your Genesect, you're going to be able to get the best out of this ability. Of course, this doesn't mean that you have to run it as a mix attacker. You can definitely run it as just a physical or special attack, but I would say probably going mix is a really good idea, especially because this is a really good max option as well. It has decent bulk, really high special attack and physical attack, and it has a decent-ish speed. So, you know what? I'm kind of convincing myself this is definitely an S tier threat. Now, obviously, Genesect is not it's not going to be as common as maybe Keldeo or Celebi, since those were at least Celebi was a distribution recently, and Keldeo is obtainable in the game. Genesect, on the other hand, is not a Pokemon that has been obtainable or widely obtainable to a lot of players. I believe the last event that was actually ran for Genesect was actually in Japan. I'm not 100% sure on that, and hopefully I'm not too wrong about that, but it's not very widely distributed, at least. So yeah, just throwing that out there, but it's still a really good Pokemon to consider. So if you're able to trade for one, I would definitely suggest you do so. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to Victini. Now, Victini is another Pokemon that is kind of like Mew in the sense that it is spread throughout all 100s throughout its base stats, and that's cool. That's cool, actually, because again, it makes it so that this Pokemon is very flexible. However, looking at, of course, the amount of moves that this Pokemon has, or not the amount of moves, but the moves that it does have, and of course, the stats themselves, and also the ability, which basically what it does is it raises both itself and its allies' accuracy on all its moves, which is really cool. This does make it so that this Pokemon is a really good supportive option, and not just a supportive option, but also running it as an offensive threat. So even when this Pokemon is being extremely offensive on the field, if you're running this on a doubles team, this is also supporting the Pokemon that are on the field for you to raise its accuracy. So if you're running this alongside, say for example, something like the Groudon, then you're more than likely going to hit that Precipice Blades, which is honestly, that's a good deal. This Pokemon does also learn a variety of extremely strong moves, especially V-Create. Now, the reason why I mentioned running this alongside Groudon, just imagine yourself hitting a 180 base power fire-type move boosted by not just your stab, but your item and the sun. That shit's gonna blast through whatever it hits. Now, it does have, unfortunately, a downside, which is that this Pokemon does lower the defense, special defense, and speed by 1 tier each when it is attacking. So that does mean that this Pokemon is not gonna be able to, you know, always spam this move. However, this is still really good. I mean, it's still good to be able to run this attack, at least with maybe just 2 hits, or if you're going to Dynamax this Pokemon, I mean, go at it. You're gonna go wild with the damage that you're going to do with this Pokemon, and you won't have the drawback of course, you know, lowering your defense, special defense, and speed. Of course, with this Pokemon, you don't really want to lower its defenses. They're decent, but you know, lowering them down to just 1 stage is still very bad for it, especially when this is mainly going to be a very offensive Pokemon. So I honestly would say that this Pokemon is definitely worth mentioning in the S tier. The reason as to why I think this Pokemon is going to be an S tier threat, not just because all that I mentioned, this Pokemon is an extremely offensive option, and the support that it provides with its ability Victory Star is still super good. And also, this Pokemon, I didn't mention, but this Pokemon can actually be ran especially offensive as well. It has Overheat, it has Solar Beam if you want to run it with, you know, the Groudon, like I mentioned previously, but it also does get Focus Blast, and it does have other really hard-hitting moves stab-wise. It could go for a Future Sight if you have Future Sight, of course, with your Dynamax. It's going to hit really hard. Psychic if you don't want to use it for Dynamax, or you could use Psychic and just, you know, Dynamax and still hit pretty hard, but you're just going to miss out on the little bit of damage that Future Sight is going to be doing as a Dynamax option. Now, this Pokemon can run some I guess supportive moves like Will-O-Wisp. It could run Helping Hand. It could run Trick Room if you want to run it on a Trick Room team, which I honestly wouldn't advise. I mean, the base 100 speed is really not going to help it in the slightest at all. There's much better options as a Trick Room setter. In fact, even though I just mentioned the speed, the 100 base speed, I think Mew is still a much better option for a Trick Room Pokemon than this, and I wouldn't necessarily say that, Mew is a good Trick Room Pokemon, but it's still decent-ish, and it can be ran, definitely. But yeah, now let's go ahead and just talk about Deontay. So, at least for Deontay, unfortunately, I would say that it's C tier. It's not going to be very widely used. If people do have it available and want to use it, that's totally fine. But it's not going to be as helpful as the Pokemon mentioned above, since it doesn't really have a lot to offer. And what I mean is that, at least as for this Pokemon, it does have Diamond Storm, which is really good ability. It's a really good move. I mean, it does raise the user's defense by 2 stages, but honestly, looking at the amount of defense that this Pokemon has, I wouldn't really say that this is useful for it at all, especially when it has such an abysmal, HP stat. It's still a decent Pokemon to run. It does have Clear Body, so you can't lower its defenses or Spadef, which is really cool, but aside from, of course, some gimmicky stuff, or in singles, at least being able to set up Stealth Rocks, if I'm not mistaken, it really doesn't do much at all. And again, like, the damage itself is alright. I mean, it has base attack and special attack 100, but mainly you're going to be using this Pokemon as a defensive option. Otherwise, running this Pokemon as an offensive option is going to just hinder it a little bit. It still can be somewhat decent to run as a Trick Room option if you want. Definitely go for it if you like it, but I honestly don't think that this Pokemon is going to be any better than some of the Pokemon that we're going to talk about right now, actually. And as we were talking about right now, let's go ahead and put Magearna in the S tier. Magearna is a much offensive option. Now, Magearna is somewhat obtainable. I mean, you can get it from Sun and Moon if you are finishing up the game. So if you do have Sun and Moon and you haven't gotten Magearna just yet, what are you waiting for? Like, this is an amazing Pokemon. In here, you're not going to see the description of Soul Heart as accurately as it would be. Basically, it says here that it's for teammates, but it's whatever Pokemon that faints, it gets a special attack buff. A special attack buff, which means that if an opponent does happen to faint, regardless of if it was under the circumstances of Magearna hitting it with a move, it dying because of hazards, or it self-destructing, this is going to cause Magearna to get a special attack buff. And one of the best parts about this ability, especially in doubles, is the fact that if your ally Pokemon does happen to go down, this is still going to grant Magearna a special attack buff. So even when you're losing, you're winning. So it's literally the live incarnation of a win-win situation. Well, it's a lose-win situation, but you know what I mean. Now, this Pokemon's special attack is super high. 130 base power is nothing to sneeze at. It has a decent amount of speed. When I say a decent amount of speed, it's not a really speedy Pokemon, but it's enough speed to be able to run it as an offensive option if you want to run something like I believe it was Gear Up, or it was, Shift Gear. My apologies. It was Shift Gear, if you want to run that. In the singles, if you're in doubles, you're more than likely going to run something that does have Tailwind, or if you want to take advantage of the somewhat low speed, you are able to run Magearna in a Trick Room setting, and it's actually going to be pretty detrimental, especially because of the typing. Now, it does share the best typing in the game, in my opinion. It does share it with one of the best Pokemon in the game, if not the best Pokemon in the game. That's called Zacian. And it does have a lot of bulk and a decent amount of HP. So the distribution of the 600 base stats is really good on this one. I really do like Magearna in general. It does have very, very strong options in terms of moves to be able to run. It does have Flare Cannon, which is probably the strongest. It is actually the strongest fairy type move in the game. Unfortunately, it does lower the special attack of Magearna by 2 stages whenever you do use it, and it doesn't have the best accuracy. It's 90%, so you know that you're probably gonna miss that in the most opportune situation. But regardless, it is still a pretty good option to run, and probably mandatory, honestly, because you're gonna be hitting Flare Cannons really, really good. Like, whenever you do hit it, it's gonna hit really, really nice. And if you're gonna run Magearna as your Dynamax option, then, you know, that extra bit of damage is gonna be pretty nice for your max move. Now, aside from that, it can run Trick Room of its own, so it can definitely set up the Trick Room for its own and, you know, just run rampant and just, you know, do whatever she wants to do. In general, it does have some really good option as coverage moves. It does have Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Shadow Ball if you really want to run that. It does have Focus Blast and Aura Sphere, so really good. Focus Blast being a really good option for your Dynamax if you're ever going to run that, but unfortunately you don't really want to run, you know, a fighting Dynamax move because it's really not going to hit that hard or as hard as the other moves. So yeah, and it does have Flash Cannon. There are possibilities of running this Pokemon as a physical option, but I would mainly I would highly advise to run this Pokemon as a specially offensive Pokemon, especially because of how, not just how high the special attack is, but because you get the best out of its ability. So yeah, definitely run it as a special attack, but if you really want to be cheeky, you could definitely just run, you know, a shift gear set and just go rampant. But you can run the shift gear for just the speed, because the amount of speed that you do get from it is pretty decent, honestly, and the setup is just really good. And like I said, this is a really offensively good Pokemon, so it doesn't necessarily need to set up too much special attack in order to hit really hard, but it is definitely a plus. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, the Magearna is definitely an S tier threat. Then we're going to move on to Volcanion. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I keep forgetting that this is even a Pokemon. I literally forget that this Pokemon even exists. I don't even know when this Pokemon was distributed. I don't even have it, okay? And I don't want to talk about it. I'm kind of depressed about it, and I can't find anyone to trade for it. But it's not as widely distributed as some of these Pokemon in this tier list. And unfortunately, unlike some of the Pokemon in this tier list, there's legitimately no other way to get it other than an event, or of course someone that gens it. So, and most of these are gonna be the case, but that's whatever. It's, you know, you play the game that you want to. That's totally fine, and you should not be judged for it. But anyways, jumping into Volcanion. Now, this one is a little bit of a toughie because this does have a really good typing. I really like Fire Water as a typing, and it does have Water Sword, which just mean that it is immune to water types. So that's really good that, you know, no longer water types are going to be hitting it for any super or neutral neutral attack or damage rather. And it does mean that this is kind of a nightmare fuel for any Kyogre. It does have some really, really good defense, decent-ish special defense, and decent-ish speed, because it can definitely be ran in either Trick Room or a Tailwind team with, or speed control, I guess you could. It could definitely be ran in any of those scenarios. It does have some really strong hitting moves because it does have Overheat and also Steam Eruption, which is basically Scald but on steroids. And, you know, not 100% accurate, but it's still really decent. I mean, 95%. You're gonna miss this when you're going to need it, but regardless, it's a very strong hitting, water type move that does do the same exact. It does the exact I can't speak. It does the exact same thing as Scald. So definitely a much better option than the Scald. But like I said, it can definitely miss. It has some other moves like Haze, which can be very good in order to, you know, stop some setups from the opposing team. And this also could be very good to face off against probably Assassin because it's very defensively oriented. And it does have a decent attack, physical attack. And so you can definitely run this Pokemon as a mix or special or physical option. And, you know, you would be good. I would definitely suggest you use the specially offensive option, however, because the amount of moves that this Pokemon learns, the amount of sheer power behind these special attacks is just absolutely phenomenal. And I could not, you know, I honestly couldn't tell you to actually just not use the full power of its special attack. I would honestly say, though, that this Pokemon does lack a bit of the offensive presence that some of these Pokemon do have, even though it does have some of the same things as Genesect and Victini, or, well, Genesect and Keldeo, where it can be run physically and specially. I would say that this Pokemon does need a little bit more support of from the team in order to shine. And the typing, regardless of being kind of unique, it's not the best. So I would definitely say that Volcanion is probably going to be an A tier threat, but not an S tier threat. Moving along, we're going to go ahead and talk about Marshadow. Now, Marshadow is a mainly offensive Pokemon. It does have some defensive not defensive options, because it's not a defensive Pokemon by any means at all, but it does have some natural bulk in it, which is really nice for an offensive option, because it does mean that you don't have to worry about it just getting flat out fucking one-shotted by any move, which it might still happen from time to time, especially because the format is probably going to be crawling with some strong-ass Ghost-type Pokemon or Dark-type Pokemon. But this is definitely a really good Pokemon to have. This does have a priority move in Shadow Sneak, which does get boosted by its Technician. Technician being a really good, ability for it, because it does boost most of its move pool. It does have a lot of really good moves, but mainly its signature move, Spectral Thief, is probably what's going to catch your eye. If this Pokemon is able to hit first, let's say for example you're facing off against Assassin and you're just running this Pokemon under Tailwind or with Scarf, and you just go for Spectral Thief and KO it, you're able to get its stats, and that's kind of insane. And not only Assassin, of course, you can do this with any against any Pokemon. So say for example, if there's a Dynamax Pokemon that is setting up on you in regards to like hitting max Quakes or max Steel Spikes, you're able to just steal those fucking buffs and just call it a day, and that's really good. That makes this Pokemon an extremely big threat to deal with. And the attack, base attack, or the base stat for its attack, it does hit very hard. It is a maximum of 383, 383, and it does have a very unique speed tier, which does mean that, of course, since this Pokemon does learn Bounce, it's going to be pretty much the fastest thing alive after using one Max Airstream, barring, any Tailwind on the opposing side, or any prior stats. So a very good option to run, and a very offensive one. I would say that this Pokemon is probably going to be an A tier threat. Now, the reason as to why I think this is probably going to be an A tier threat is because of the fact that it learns so many strong moves, and it does have some longevity in some of its moves, like Drain Punch. It has Close Combat, so it's a really strong fighting type move, and the fact that Dynamaxing Close Combat, probably not going to hit as hard as the original Close Combat, but it's going to give the Pokemon an attack buff, and it is Stab, so that's still really, really good and something to consider. And the fact that this Pokemon in general can steal buffs after KOing the opponent with Spectral Thief is actually, just kind of scary to think of, because it's kind of like a Ditto, but not exactly a Ditto, and it does have access to Flying type move in order to use, Max Airstream and kind of, go a little bit wild. It does have a lot of coverage moves like Fire Punch, Ice Punch, and Thunder Punch, and it is able to take advantage of its ability in Technician for Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak is going to be really hard, it's Stab, it's also boosted by Technician, and it's gonna go first, and you're able to also run something like Shadow Punch, which is never gonna miss, and it's going to be boosted by Technician. So I personally do think that this Pokemon could definitely be an S tier threat, so I'm gonna put it in the S tier. Now, Zeraora is a very offensive option, and it's mainly an offensive option, so there's no other option for it. It does have some decent attack as well as special attack, so you can definitely run it as a mix attacker, or a physical or special attacker, which is really decent. And it does have probably one of the highest speed stats in the game, which is really, really good, because you're, of course, going to be outspeeding a lot of Pokemon, and the speed tier that it's in is very unique as well, so that's another thing to definitely take into consideration. Now, it is not the bulkiest Pokemon. It does have some natural-ish bulk, but it's not as high as maybe some of the Pokemon that we mentioned, like Marshadow. But it's still decent to the point where, you know, you're able to outspeed most of the Pokemon, and that does make it really good for its signature move, which is Plasma Fist, which basically what it does, aside from doing a shitload of damage, you know, base power of 100, it changes the normal type moves in the remainder of the turn into electric type moves, which just mean that if your opponent is going for any normal attacks in that turn, after, you know, Zeraora had already attacked, it's going to turn into an electric type move, and that is going to put its HP back up, because of course Bolt Absorb is a thing. Now, do I think is it going to be like very, very good in the format? I don't really think that this Pokemon is going to get a lot of usage out of that particular gimmick, because most moves that are used as normal are usually fake out, and most of them, you know, don't get used at all. Now, it's going to be something very interesting to see people using, you know, Max Strike, stuff like that, after Zeraora uses a Plasma Fist and, you know, it gets Bolt Absorbed, because that's probably going to be a lot of HP that it's going to recover. In fact, more than likely it's going to recover all the HP back, because that is a lot of damage that is just being absorbed. But I don't think that's going to take a lot of, or it's not necessarily going to get a lot of play, is what I mean. And I would say that this Pokemon probably could use more support than the ones in the S tier. So I wouldn't say necessarily that this is an S tier threat. I probably think that this is an A tier threat. It's widely distributed, so it's very accessible to a lot of players, because it was, you know, included in this generation as one of the event Pokemon. And as it does have the other benefits that the Keldeo and the Genesect have, and even 𝘗𝘢𝘕, where it can be ran either physical or special, but it's mainly, you know, the other Pokemon are just stronger and need less support from the team in order to outperform, you know, Zeraora. So I honestly do think that it's a threat. It's just not necessarily the biggest threat out there, so yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on with the next Pokemon, which is going to be Meltan. And Meltan, it's Meltan, right? Yeah, Meltan. Meltan is in the D tier, but it's not the D tier. It is the Meltan's tier. So this tier is specifically for Meltan, because it looks adorable, and it, you know, it kind of deserves to be in its own thing. So yeah. Anyways, moving along to the actual next Pokemon is going to be Melmetal. Now, Melmetal is extremely strong. I don't know if you guys have seen the stat that, like, the behemoth. Wait, what the sorry, not that one. The behemoth that this Pokemon is, like, the amount of attack, defense, and HP that this Pokemon have is insane. And not only that, but the fact that this Pokemon's speed is so incredibly low, this makes it so that this Pokemon is an excellent option for a Trick Room team, and definitely shines in that area. If you're able to run this Pokemon in doubles as a Trick Room Pokemon, or under Trick Room in general, this Pokemon's offensive capabilities just go off the roof. Double Iron Badge, which is its signature move, has a I believe it's what, like 30% chance of causing to flinch. This means that not only are you having, you know, that 30% chance to flinch, this move hits twice, which, if I'm not mistaken, both the hits have 30% chance, which kind of makes it so that this move is, you know, 60% chance to flinch. That's kind of nuts. And if you run this Pokemon on a Trick Room team, which you'll more than likely be able to hit first most of the time, that's just gonna be extremely detrimental to your, or detrimental. I don't know how to pronounce it, guys. I'm sorry, but basically, it's gonna be really hard hitting But yeah, this Pokemon is offensively going to be a very, very good option for Trick Room. Mainly Trick Room. I wouldn't say that this Pokemon is going to be anything too good outside of Trick Room. This def on this Pokemon is pretty abysmal. So having something like a Light Screen User is probably going to be the best thing that you have for it. And a Trick Room setter. Now, it does learn a lot of very powerful physical type moves like Superpower, double Iron Badge, which is a signature move. It does have some coverage options like Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, and so on and so forth. It pretty much is mainly a physical option Pokemon. Like it's mainly just physical, and you should definitely just run it physical. Don't have the idea to just run it special, because it's not going to really do a lot of damage. It's not going to do anything at all, honestly. Not compared to, its physical capabilities. So I would definitely say that this Pokemon is going to be extremely good, but probably an A tier threat. Now the reason that's I already I said a lot of shit. I said a lot of really good things about Milton, but the reason is it's mainly just a Trick Room team, right? Or a Trick Room Pokemon, and well, you know what? Honestly, you could make the argument that it's probably the best Trick Room Pokemon in this tier list, and you would be right, honestly. Actually, you would be 100% right. But it doesn't have too much options. Who am I kidding, right? This is probably an S tier threat. I mean, come on. The Trick Room option for this Pokemon makes it so that this Pokemon is an absolute threat, and it's a must-have for your Trick Room team, at least for Series 13, so definitely yes. Run Miltank. It's a really, really good Pokemon. It's going to be really, really strong, and it does also have a Gigantamax option if you actually want to run that, but yeah. Anyways, moving along, then we have the last Pokemon, which is Sarud, which is also the last mythical Pokemon that we have ever received, and it's the only mythical Pokemon that Sword and Shield introduced, which is kind of sad, but I don't have much to say about Sarud. It's not that I don't like the Pokemon, because I don't, but also it's not just that. There's so many better options, right? Like, Rillaboom exists, and this Pokemon's irrelevant. It's just irrelevant because of that. It does have some decent-ish typing. I wouldn't say this is extremely decent, because it is, 4 times weak to Bug, and, you can make the argument of a lot of Pokemon are being, 4 times weak to something. But this Pokemon has nothing at all to offer. Like, it can't even be an extremely offensive option, even though it does have high physical attack. Its ability does nothing for its damage. Leaf Guard does nothing for its damage other than protect it from being burnt under the sun, which, cool beans, I guess, if you want to run it on a fucking sun team and just have the risk of just getting one-shotted. That's cool, I guess, if you want to, go off King. There are much better options for grass types under sun, like Venusaur, or you could run Rillaboom, which is a much better grass monkey. But this one does have some good options in regards to like moves. It does have Jungle Healing, which is its main it's his signature move, but it doesn't do damage, and all it does is just heal it, and also it does, cure status alignment. So it can cure itself from burns, but it can't. It just can't ditch out the amount of damage that maybe a Pokemon such as Rillaboom can do, or maybe Venusaur under Sun. It's just a far inferior option than the other Pokemon that are in this list. It does absolutely nothing for the team because it's not a very supportive option. It's literally all the curing that it does it for itself and no one else. So I would definitely say that this Pokemon is C tier. I'm not gonna rank it lower than that because Melton's there and he's happy, and if he's happy, I'm happy. So that's gonna be the end of it. So anyways, that's gonna be the tier list. If you guys do have anything that you guys would change, let me know in the comment section below. But this is basically what I do think based on my personal opinion. So this is heavily opinion based. This is by no means saying that this is the absolute best. This is the only tier list that you guys should listen to. However, if it could be, but it's not, and you guys are open to making any suggestions, and if you guys want to use any of the Pokemon that are below the B tier, or even in the B tier, which is only one Pokemon for some reason, you can definitely do so. Like I said previously, this is not all the mythical Pokemon that are out there, but this is the Pokemon that are allowed for Series 13, since these are the mythical Pokemon that are available for Sword and Shield, whether it be via distribution or Pokemon that you can transfer over to Sword and Shield. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and yeah, if you did, hit like, subscribe, and if you guys want to catch me live, definitely do so. I do stream on Twitch. Well, I haven't streamed in a while, but I will be streaming pretty soon again, and I will be streaming a lot of content like Genshin, Pokemon, Warframe, and maybe Tower Fantasy if I actually feel like, you know, streaming that. But yeah, anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sorry if this was a longish video, but I did want to go into details as to why I was making the decisions that I was making, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care, and I'll see you guys later on the next video or whatever. Goodbye.